Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the preview for the 2025 Monaco Grand Prix, everyone's favourite action-packed race of the year. Alright, yeah, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but let's get this out of the way right from the start of the video. I know it can be very processional around the famous streets, potential understatement there, but there is still something so special about the Monaco Grand Prix weekend which makes me love it so much. So yes, I am still very much looking forward to this one, but it really is all about qualifying, isn't it? More on that a bit later though. Last weekend, F1 was in Italy for what actually turned out to be a really good race, with Max Verstappen surprising most of us by taking his fourth win on the bounce around Imola. But now it is on to the 3.337 kilometre, just over 2 mile, 19 corner, very famous Circuit de Monaco for the 8th round of the season and the middle race of the latest triple header. Maybe not a huge surprise, but there is just the one DRS zone in action this weekend, and that is down the start-finish straight. But if you're new to F1 or just need a reminder, I wouldn't expect that zone to make too much of a difference come Sunday. Whilst the race will be close due to the nature of the track, we won't see much in the way of passing, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. With turn 1 a traditional favourite, given it does come at the end of that zone, a lunge into the hairpin isn't impossible and always looks very impressive if you can pull that one off. And the Nouvelle chicane on the exit of the tunnel is also an opportunity given the long run from Portier. Or, if a driver is feeling particularly bold, they could just throw it up the inside of Laras Cast like Jules Bianchi did to Kamui Kobayashi in 2014 with a bit of pushing and shoving on his way to a points finish for Marussia. Now this year, Formula 1 is celebrating 75 years of the World Championship, and Monaco has been almost an ever-present on the calendar in that time. The circuit hosted its first of 70 F1 World Championship races in 1950 before falling off the calendar the following year due to budgetary concerns and a lack of regulations in the sport. It did return in 1952 but was run to sports car rules and so was a non-World Championship event, but then disappeared again for the following 2 seasons due to the fact the car regulations were not finalised, before coming back in 1955 where it remained a permanent part of the schedule, 2020 aside of course. 37 different drivers have claimed victory at the circuit over the years, with Ayrton Senna the most successful of them all, picking up 6 wins in Monaco, which is 1 more than Graham Hill and Michael Schumacher. Of the drivers on the current grid, 4 have conquered the famous streets, with Lewis Hamilton winning 3 times, Fernando Alonso and Max Verstappen 2 times, and Charles Leclerc has the 1 win, which, as I'm sure you remember, was last season. Whoa, wait a second. 3 for Hamilton, 2 for Alonso, 2 for Verstappen and 1 for Leclerc? Well, if my basic primary school maths knowledge serves me well, that's a combined total of 8, frantically checks that that's correct. And if we include the inters and the wets, 8 is also the total number of tyre compounds in the whole Pirelli range. Oh yes, that's right folks, it is tyre talk time once again. The compounds available for this one then are once again the softest in the Pirelli range, and so they are the hard C4, the medium C5 and the soft C6. Worth noting that although the softest tyre didn't last too long at Imola and we didn't see it during the race at all, it should be better suited to Monaco and so might be a popular choice with the strategists, but I doubt it if they can avoid it. The track isn't at all tough on the tyres, frankly, but it is a low-grip circuit, so that presents its own challenges. This year, though, around half the track has been resurfaced from turn 12 to turn 3, and so that area will offer even less grip and could even lead to graining early in the weekend. That said, we do have lots of support action, so things should improve, and track evolution around Monaco will be, as always, very high. Last year, well, it wasn't a thriller when it came to strategy, let me tell you that for free, as opposed to every other time when I charge. But anyway, as a result of the red flag on the opening lap thanks to the Perez-Magnussen-Hulkenberg crash, every driver changed tyres during the stoppage, and only 6 others made more than 1 stop for one reason or another. That meant race winner Charles Leclerc got rid of his mediums on lap 1 and then ran the hards all the way to the end. This year, we have a new Monaco-specific rule to hopefully stop that happening again. So on Sunday, drivers will have to use 3 different types of tyre, either wet or dry, which effectively makes the race a mandatory 2-stopper. However, whilst they have to use 3 different types of tyre, they are still only required, if it stays dry, to use 2 different slick compounds. The idea here is to try and add more excitement to the race and create more options when it comes to strategy. The 2-stopper should mean that tyre degradation isn't an issue, and so we might see drivers pushing throughout the race. However, as I've said before, I'm not convinced by this at all. The key to Monaco is getting your car to the checkered flag, so drivers aren't always pushing to their limits anyway, regardless of tyre concerns. And whilst deg won't be an issue, there is still a big advantage to be had if you can drive slowly, stop gaps opening up to the mid-pack and prevent the guy behind, your rival, from pitting and rejoining in clean air. After all, the overcut tends to be fairly powerful and the preferred route for strategists. So, whilst we can't know for sure, I suspect we'll just see that play out twice rather than once on Sunday. But I hope I'm wrong. It just feels like another unnecessary knee-jerk reaction. But on that, the red flag tyre change rule hasn't been altered, so if we do get 2 red flags, which isn't impossible around Monaco, by the way, then the 2-stop race becomes 2 tyre changes under the stoppages and so has no impact at all. I mean, even 1 red flag turns a race into a standard 1-stopper. Now, had they mandated the use of all 3 compounds during the race, hard, medium and soft, it would have made things more interesting because the C6 would be tough to manage even around Monaco. Although potential red flags would have robbed us of that as well, so maybe not. Let's see what happens. But yeah, I'm not sold on this at all, but at least they're trying something, I suppose. On the subject of pit stops where the race is either stopped or neutralised, with the track being lined with barriers, an accident is never all that far away if a driver makes a mistake, and so you may not be totally shocked to hear that for the second weekend in a row, safety cars are high risk, so that might mix things up a bit and could open up some strategy options as well as create pure chaos in the pit lane. The weather could also play its part in Monaco, and we've seen a few wet races in recent years in particular, haven't we? And as of Wednesday afternoon, rain is around and could be a feature, with Saturday currently the most likely to be affected. We are currently looking at between a 40 to 60% chance of rain for quali, which could make things very interesting. Worth noting too that due to the new Monaco tyre rule thing, each driver will be allocated an additional set of full wets this weekend on the off chance that it rains the very specific amount required for that tyre to be anything other than pointless. Sean's sceptical this weekend, and your schedule for this one is once again a traditional European one, and so is identical to last week's. So as a reminder, FP1 will get the weekend started on Friday at 12:30pm BST, and that is followed by FP2 later that same day at 4pm. Once again, FP3 gets the Saturday F1 action started at 11:30am, with qualifying, again the most important quali session of the season, getting underway at 3pm. And it will be lights out for the race on Sunday at 2pm, and once again that is in UK time. And we've also got Formula 2 and Formula 3 in action again, so lots going on in Monaco this weekend. Now, before I make some predictions for this one, let's have a run through a couple of news stories that have been doing the rounds since last weekend's race in Italy. First up, it has emerged this week that 3 separate technical directives were issued to the teams on May 12th, just a few days before the action at Imola. TD006A relates to the design of wheel bodywork and tyre treatment, with PlanetF1.com sources indicating that this directive merely clarified that design ideas in the area of tyre treatment, such as those relating to the use of water cooling, would not be allowed, but there is no indication any such systems were in use by any team. An apparent preemptive clarification or rule change, I suppose, which is something we saw last year, of course, with the ban on asymmetrical braking systems, even though the FIA was clear that there was never any evidence any team was even using them. TD039M relates to skid block design and is also related to clarifications on how the depth of the plank is measured in scrutineering. These clarifications pertain to mounting patterns and material usage, and in a similar way to the wing flexibility tests, these changes are to tighten up the team's potential abilities to hit the wear limits of the plank while still passing the minimum thickness checks, and in theory could have meant some teams needed to raise their cars to not fall foul of the revised checks. Are you still with me? A third technical directive relates to a clarification on how the front floor bodywork flexibility tests are carried out, and is understood to be of particularly minor significance. Now, that has led to a lot of speculation that maybe, perhaps, possibly that explains why Red Bull, specifically Max Verstappen, suddenly had the edge over McLaren at Imola. However, several sources have indicated to PlanetF1.com that the extent of the impact of the technical directives would have been minimal, to the point of there being no impact on the competitive outcome of the Grand Prix weekend, with McLaren understood to have not needed to have made any changes to conform with the directives. Instead, the likes of Red Bull's updates from the last few races and the low abrasion high-speed corner combination of Imola apparently making the greater difference on Sunday. Let's see how things go in Monaco and indeed in Spain, where of course another new technical directive will come into force. Hands up if you're fed up of the phrase technical directive already this season. And it has been revealed that in 2026, Formula 1 will collaborate with Disney's iconic Mickey and Friends brand. That's right, we've had Lego cars, Snoopy-themed merchandise, and now we've finally got the partnership nobody was asking for. F1 announcing it will collaborate with Disney's Mickey and Friends for, and I quote, one-of-a-kind experiences, content, and merchandise around the globe. Anyway, on top of that, if you missed out on tickets for the early screening of the upcoming F1 movie starring Brad Pitt, you'll be delighted to hear that thanks to overwhelming demand, even more are being offered to audiences. And they went on sale on Wednesday. I mean, who gives a schnitzel? Right then, shall we quickly make some predictions and focus on the stuff we actually care about? You know, the racing. Feels like a bit of an afterthought these days, but as always, please do not take these too seriously. They're just a little bit of fun, but if you do disagree with my picks, then you can let me know yours in the comment section down below. And last time, not great, but not bad. 3 points thanks to Piastri's pole, 18 finishers, and half points for Norris and Piastri making the podium, but in the wrong order, so I will take that. This time around, it's all about qualifying, really, isn't it? I mean, assuming the mandatory two-stopper doesn't really do much other than forcing drivers through the pit lane one extra time. And given how this season has gone so far, it's hard to bet against an Oscar Piastri or Max Verstappen pole. And given that the Dutchman has a habit of pulling a great lap out of the bag when he needs to and seemingly out of nowhere, I am going to go with him for pole on Saturday, and as a result, I'll say he'll hang on to that P1 and take the win on Sunday. I'll go with Piastri for P2, and because it would be too easy to just assume it's a double McLaren podium, I'll mix it up a little bit with all the hope in the world and very little expectation and say Charles Leclerc takes P3 at his home Grand Prix. By the way, that doesn't mean I'm counting Lando Norris out. We probably will see 2 McLarens up there come the end of the weekend. And don't forget as well, Mercedes could very well be in the mix too. I just have to cling on to my naive optimism when it comes to Ferrari. It's all I've got left. Behind the top 3, I'll go with Williams as the 5th best finishing team on Sunday and a surprise fastest lap as well for Isack Hadjar. As for some other, I suppose, separate bold picks, and I'm going to keep saying this until it comes true now, so you can probably write this down as one of my predictions every week. At least 1 point for Fernando Alonso. He will do it, I promise you that. I'll go with double points again for Williams. What a start to the season they've had, by the way. And let's say a Q3 appearance for Nico Hülkenberg on Saturday. That would be pretty good for Sauber as well. That is it for the Monaco Grand Prix preview then, but don't forget you can let me know your thoughts and your predictions ahead of the weekend in the comment section down below. And for the latest news, reaction and analysis from the world of Formula One, head on over to planetf1.com. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been sarcastic and skeptical Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.